A phoenix rises from the flames, but its true story has been misunderstood for centuries. This universal symbol of rebirth holds a hidden key to your own spiritual awakening. By the end of this exploration, you will possess a complete map for navigating your own cycles of personal transformation. We will uncover why the fire is not an end, but a necessary beginning, and what the silent ashes truly represent. What part of your own life feels ready for a rebirth? This fiery archetype emerges in countless traditions, each with its own name and nuances. In ancient Egypt, the Bennu bird was a heron-like creature linked to the sun god Ra. It was said to burst into flame at the end of its life, only to rise again from its own ashes. Across the world in China, the Fenghuang was a magnificent, peaceful bird symbolizing high virtue and the union of yin and yang. It was an omen of harmony and a new golden age. Then we have the Greek phoenix, immortalized by Herodotus, a dazzling eagle-like bird that burns on a pyre of aromatic woods. And in Slavic folklore, the firebird is a magical creature whose feathers glow with embers, a prize so radiant it sparks incredible quests and transformations. Despite their different forms, these beings share a profound common thread. Each is intimately connected to the sun, embodying its light and life-giving power. Each undergoes a cycle of death and rebirth, a voluntary descent into fire that leads to a more glorious existence. And each is a symbol of purity, renewal, and profound spiritual blessing. The fact that this same core idea appears independently across continents and centuries is no accident. It points to something deeper than a shared story. It suggests the phoenix represents a fundamental, universal truth about the nature of existence itself, a spiritual blueprint for transformation that every human culture has, in its own way, recognized and revered. This fire is far more than a destructive force. It is the ultimate tool of spiritual purification. Think of an ancient alchemist working in a dimly lit laboratory. His goal was not merely to melt metal, but to perform a miracle, transmuting common lead into perfect, incorruptible gold. This entire process was a profound metaphor for the human soul's journey. The lead represents our raw, unrefined self, burdened by ego, fear, and worldly attachments. The crucible and its fire are the intense trials and deep introspection we must willingly enter. The glorious gold is the enlightened consciousness that emerges only after everything else has been burned away. The phoenix does not just die in its flames. It actively chooses the blaze, understanding that this is the only path to its rebirth. Its fire is the alchemical furnace of the spirit. What in your own life feels like lead? Perhaps it is an old resentment you carry, a story of past failure you replay in your mind, or a deep-seated fear of not being enough. These are the very things the phoenix fire is meant to consume. This burning is not a punishment. It is a sacred release. It is the necessary process of letting go of the identities, the wounds, and the illusions that keep you tethered to a lesser version of yourself. The heat feels intense, even unbearable at times, because it is working on the most stubborn parts of your being. But just as the alchemist trusts the process to reveal the gold hidden within the ore, you can learn to trust this inner fire. It is not destroying you. It is refining you, burning away everything you are not, so that only your truest, most radiant essence remains. This voluntary surrender to the flames is the most courageous act of spiritual transformation. We often misunderstand what it means for the phoenix to die. Its death is not a physical ending, but a powerful metaphor for the necessary endings we all face in our lives. Think of an old identity you have outgrown, perhaps the story of yourself as a victim of circumstance. or the comfortable mask of the perpetual people-pleaser. These identities, while familiar, become cages. Their death feels terrifying, like a true ending, because we have mistaken the costume for the person wearing it. The Phoenix shows us that we must willingly let these false selves burn. Consider an outdated belief you have carried for years, maybe a conviction that you are not creative, or that success is only for other people. This belief is like a heavy, outdated map you are still using to navigate a new world. The Phoenix does not cling to its old nest. It understands that the nest must be consumed by fire to make way for the new. This is the death of the comfort zone, that seductive place where nothing grows and nothing changes. But nothing truly lives either. Stepping out of it feels like a small death because it is the end of predictability. Yet this entire process is a prerequisite, a non-negotiable step for any genuine awakening. You cannot become who you are meant to be while clinging to who you have been. The fire demands a release of control, a conscious surrender to a process you cannot fully direct. It is the ultimate act of trust, a faith that on the other side of the ashes, a more authentic and radiant version of you is waiting to be born. What old story are you ready to lay on that sacred pyre? After the fire has done its work, only the ashes remain. This is the quietest part of the entire cycle, a state that can feel like absolute emptiness. In our own lives, this is the moment after a great loss or a profound disappointment, when the old identity has been burned away and nothing new has yet taken its place. It is a deeply uncomfortable stillness, yet in esoteric wisdom, these ashes are not a sign of defeat. They are the most fertile ground for new creation, a state of pure, unformed potential. The ashes represent the humility that comes when the ego has been dissolved. All our grand plans, our self-important stories, and our rigid sense of control have been reduced to fine, grey dust. There is nothing left to defend, nothing left to prove. This is the sacred void, often called the dark night of the soul, where we are stripped bare and stand completely open before the universe. It feels like a terrible ending, but it is the only place where a true beginning can take root. Think of a field after a wildfire has passed through. The landscape appears barren and lifeless, but those very ashes are packed with nutrients, and the cleared space allows sunlight to reach the soil for the first time in years. In this quiet emptiness, the seeds of a stronger, more resilient forest can finally sprout. Your own periods of ash are no different. That feeling of being lost after a career ends, the quiet confusion when a long-term relationship closes, the hollow ache when a dream you cherish dissolves, these are your ashes. It is in this state of not knowing, this profound humility, that your true self, the one that is not defined by any role or achievement, can finally emerge. What if this emptiness you fear is not a void, but a womb? What if this silence is not an absence, but a listening? The phoenix does not burst immediately from the flames. It arises from the quiet that follows, proving that the most magnificent rebirths are always born from a state of graceful, surrendered potential. From the quiet ashes, a new structure begins to form. The phoenix does not simply rise, it builds. It gathers aromatic woods and sacred spices, most notably myrrh, to construct a nest that will become its final pyre and its first cradle. This is no ordinary nest. Myrrh is the key, a resin steeped in ancient duality. For millennia, myrrh was used in the embalming rituals of Egypt, a precious substance to preserve the physical body for the afterlife. At the same time, it was a holy anointing oil, used to consecrate kings and priests, setting them apart for a sacred purpose. So in this single ingredient, we have the profound symbolism of death and life intertwined. The myrrh preserves what is essential, the eternal spiritual essence. even as the physical form is consumed. It anoints the process, marking this death not as a tragedy, but as a holy transition. The nest itself becomes a sacred vessel, an altar where the old self is offered up. And within this fragrant pyre, something miraculous is concealed, the egg of myrrh. This egg is not the beginning of the cycle, but its glorious culmination. It represents the seed of your new consciousness, the core of your transformed self that has been forged in the flames. After the fire of trial and the humility of the ashes, this is what remains, a potent, concentrated potential. It is the new identity, the new understanding, the new way of being that has been crystallized from your entire journey of transformation. Think of a time you finally understood a profound life lesson, not just intellectually, but in the very core of your being. That deep, unshakable knowing is your egg of myrrh. It is the insight that emerges after a period of great difficulty, the compassion that is born from your own healed pain, the authentic vision for your life that could only form once the noise of expectation was burned away. This egg is the most sacred part of you, and it requires a protected space to gestate. The fiery nest is that sanctuary. It is the period of integration where you hold this new consciousness close, allowing it to strengthen and develop away from the outside world. You might feel a need for quiet reflection after a breakthrough, a protective instinct around your newfound peace. This is you guarding your egg. You are creating the inner conditions for your new self to fully form, safe within the very flames that once seemed so destructive, until the moment you are ready to emerge, fully realized and radiantly new. The radiant new phoenix that emerges is not merely a bird reborn, but a living sun. Its golden feathers and brilliant light are a direct echo of solar deities like Ra, who sailed his bark through the underworld each night only to be born again at dawn, and Helios, the Greek titan who drove his chariot across the sky each day. This is no superficial connection. The phoenix embodies the inner sun, what esoteric traditions often call the higher self, that eternal, luminous core of your being that exists beyond the fleeting dramas of your personality. Just as the sun is the central, life-giving force of our solar system, your higher self is the central, conscious source of your true identity. Its light is constant, even when it appears to vanish from your sight. Think of the sun setting in the evening. From our earthly perspective, it dies, swallowed by the horizon and plunging the world into darkness. But we know the sun has not been extinguished. It is simply shining on another part of the world, continuing its eternal cycle, utterly unwavering in its nature. The phoenix's dramatic death and rebirth is a story about this very constancy. It teaches that your essential self does not die in the fires of your life's challenges. It uses those fires to burn away the clouds and storms that obscure its light. Your moments of despair, your periods of ash, are not proof that your inner sun has gone out. They are simply the dusk, the necessary transition that always, without fail, precedes the dawn. This cyclical rhythm is the fundamental pulse of the universe, visible in the turning of the seasons, the ebb and flow of the tides, and the very breath in your lungs. You are not meant to achieve a single, permanent state of enlightenment, and then remain static forever. You are designed for constant renewal, for endless cycles of becoming. Each dawn offers a new beginning, a fresh opportunity to align your personal will with the radiant will of that inner sun. Each challenge you face is another dusk, another invitation to release what you have outgrown and trust in the light that persists within. Can you feel that eternal rhythm in your own spirit, the quiet, undying pulse that continues even when everything else feels lost? This same fiery rhythm of death and rebirth is mirrored within the very architecture of your own body, in the ancient esoteric map of the Kundalini. Often depicted as a serpent coiled at the base of the spine, Kundalini is not a myth, but a potent, dormant spiritual energy. When awakened, it begins a fiery ascent up the central channel of the spine, and its journey is the phoenix flight internalized. The fire that consumes the mythical bird is the same intense, purifying heat of this rising life force. It is not a gentle warmth, but a transformative blaze that seeks to burn through everything that blocks your connection to your own divine nature. These blockages are what yogic traditions call the chakras, the energy centers that govern different aspects of your physical, emotional, and spiritual life. Imagine a lifetime of unexpressed grief creating a dense, cold knot in your chest, or a deep-seated fear of scarcity forming a rigid constriction in your core. These are the blockages the Kundalini fire encounters on its path upward. Its ascent is a voluntary descent into your own inner flames, a conscious journey into the very places you have learned to avoid. The heat you might feel in meditation or during profound personal shifts is this sacred fire at work, incinerating the psychic debris of past traumas, limiting beliefs, and emotional contracts you never consciously agreed to. Each chakra it clears is another layer of the old self being willingly offered to the pyre. The base of the spine, concerned with survival and security, must release its primal fears. The sacral center, governing creativity and emotion, must let flow what was once blocked. The solar plexus, the seat of personal power, must burn away the need for external validation. This is not a peaceful stroll. It is an alchemical furnace blazing through your entire being. The ultimate destination of this rising serpent fire is the crown of the head, symbolizing the final, glorious rebirth, a state of enlightened union with the divine. This is the phoenix fully realized, no longer a symbol outside of you, but your own lived experience. The radiant bird rising from the ashes is your own consciousness, purified and expanded, having united the earthly self with the infinite self. Have you ever felt a sudden surge of energy along your spine, or an unexpected wave of heat during a moment of deep introspection? That may be your own inner phoenix, stirring in its nest, preparing for its sacred ascent. The phoenix's journey finds a perfect map in the ancient wisdom of the Kabbalistic tree of life. This symbolic diagram of creation charts the soul's entire path from its divine source into the material world, and most importantly, its journey back home. The tree is formed of 10 spheres, or sephiroth, connected by 22 paths, and it is framed by 3 pillars. On the left stands the pillar of severity, a column of form, judgment, and restriction. On the right shines the pillar of mercy, a stream of force, expansion, and unconditional love. Between them rests the pillar of mildness, the path of balance. The phoenix's descent into the flames is a deliberate journey down the left-hand pillar. This is the soul's courageous confrontation with its own structure and limitations. It passes through spheres like Jebura, whose name means strength, but represents the severe, purifying fire of divine judgment. This is not a punishment, but a necessary burning away of all that is inauthentic, all the accumulated distortions that prevent the soul's light from shining through. It is the fire that tests the integrity of the nest, ensuring only what is true and essential can remain. Then, reborn from its own ashes, the phoenix begins its glorious ascent up the right-hand pillar, the pillar of mercy. This is the inflow of grace and healing. It moves through spheres like Chizd, or loving kindness, which offers the boundless compassion that soothes the burns of the previous trial. It is carried upward on a current of unconditional acceptance, its radiant new form being filled with the very love it had to learn to embody. The ultimate destination of this ascent is Kether, the crown, the first Sephira, representing pure, undifferentiated consciousness, the ultimate source of all that is. This is the phoenix returned to its origin, not as the creature that began the journey, but as a being that has fully integrated the experience of the flames and the mercy. Its flight maps the entire cosmic process, the divine breath exhaling creation into being and inhaling it back into unity. Your own spiritual journey mirrors this precise path. The difficult, constricting periods of your life, where you face harsh truths or feel judged by circumstance, are your descent down the pillar of severity. The moments of profound peace, unexpected forgiveness, and effortless flow are your ascent up the pillar of mercy. Each cycle you complete, from challenge to integration, from death to rebirth, brings you one step closer to remembering the brilliant crown of your own true nature. This same archetypal journey from the ashes to the stars is perfectly captured in the symbolic language of the tarot. Two cards in particular, the Star and Judgment, map the personal phoenix moment with stunning clarity. The Star appears after the tumultuous Tower card, which depicts a lightning-struck structure, a sudden and catastrophic collapse of everything we thought was secure. In the wake of that devastation, the Star shows a naked figure kneeling by a calm pool, 1 foot on the earth and 1 in the water, pouring 2 jugs of life-giving liquid. This is the card of hope, inspiration, and spiritual renewal after a period of utter darkness. It is the quiet, luminous dawn that follows the long night. The figure is not building a new tower, not rushing to reconstruct the old ego. She is simply present, open, and receptive, allowing the healing waters of the cosmos to flow through her. This is the state of the ashes we explored, that fertile emptiness where the new consciousness can finally receive light. You have survived the fire, the old structures have fallen, and now for the first time you can see the eternal, guiding stars with perfect clarity. This is your spirit, stripped bare of its defenses, drinking directly from the source of all inspiration. Have you ever had a moment of profound peace after a great loss? A sudden, clear knowing that everything would be okay, even when nothing in your outer circumstances had changed. That is the star rising in your life. Then comes the call of the Judgment card. This is not a card of condemnation, but of awakening. It depicts an angel blowing a trumpet, and figures rising from their graves with arms outstretched, answering a summons to a higher state of being. The call is a spiritual alarm clock, ringing through the layers of your slumber. It is the moment you realize the fire was not an accident, but a necessary initiation. It is the undeniable urge to rise from the tomb of your old identity, to leave behind who you were and embrace who you are meant to become. This is the phoenix hearing the song of its own rebirth. Your personal Judgment card moment might be a sudden insight that recontextualizes your entire past, a book that falls into your hands at the perfect time, or a deep internal voice that will no longer be ignored, telling you it is time to change your life. It is the call to transform, and the figures on the card are shown answering, actively participating in their own resurrection. They are not being dragged from their graves, they are rising willingly. This is the ultimate phoenix moment, the conscious choice to emerge from the ashes of your past and step into a new, integrated life. The star offers the healing vision, and Judgment provides the clarion call to make that vision real. Together they form the complete cycle, from the quiet reception of hope to the active, triumphant ascent into your reborn self. This fiery cycle of transformation takes on a truly radical meaning through the lens of ancient Gnostic wisdom. For the Gnostics, the entire material cosmos, this world we perceive with our senses, is the fire. It is not a furnace for purification, but a grand and seductive illusion, a prison of suffering and forgetfulness crafted by a flawed, lesser god they called the demiurge. Within this view, our ordinary lives, with all their attachments and dramas, are the very flames that consume the phoenix. We are not here to be refined by the world, but to awaken from it. The phoenix's dramatic death is the Gnostic's moment of supreme realization. The shocking understanding that everything they believed was real is, in fact, a kind of beautiful, terrible dream from which they must rouse themselves. The goal is not a better rebirth within the cycle, but a final, glorious escape from the wheel of reincarnation itself. This escape is made possible through gnosis, a word that means not intellectual knowledge, but direct experiential knowledge of the true God, a divine spark that exists far beyond the created universe. This gnosis is the ultimate fire, but it is a fire of liberating truth, not consuming flame. It burns away the illusion of the world, revealing the soul's true, radiant nature as a fragment of the ultimate source, a citizen of the pleroma. The pleroma is the Gnostic term for the fullness, the realm of perfect, eternal light from which our souls originally fell. It is the true home, the reality beyond all realities. So when the phoenix rises from its ashes, it is not being reborn into another body, another life within the material world. It is the soul, having achieved gnosis, finally breaking its chains and ascending back into the pleroma. It is the end of the long, painful cycle of reincarnation, the final release from the hamster wheel of earthly existence. Think of a time you suddenly saw through a lie you had believed for years, perhaps about a person or a situation. In that moment of clarity, the entire world seemed to shift. The emotional charge, the anxiety, the story you had built, it all just fell away. That small, personal awakening is a tiny taste of gnosis. It is the moment you remember you are the phoenix, not the flame, and you begin the conscious, deliberate work of gathering your own sacred myrrh, the direct knowledge that will ultimately fuel your escape from the great cosmic fire. What illusions have you already seen through in your own life? And what might it feel like to finally, completely, come home? This same sacred fire that forges the phoenix is the very flame that burns in the alchemist's crucible, aimed at one ultimate prize. The legendary philosopher's stone was never just about transmuting lead into gold. That was merely the outer symbol for a far greater inner achievement. The stone is the creation of a perfected, immortal spiritual body, a vessel of consciousness so refined and durable it can survive any fire. The entire dramatic cycle of the phoenix, from its choice of the pyre to its triumphant return, is the living, breathing allegory for the recipe to create this stone within yourself. Think of the raw lead, your unawakened self, burdened with fear and desire. The alchemical fire is applied, the trials and tribulations of your life that feel like they are destroying you. The phoenix does not resist this process. It understands that this intense heat is the only force capable of burning away the impurities, the attachments and identities that chain the spirit to decay and death. With each surrender, with each release of something you thought you were, you are not being diminished. You are being condensed. Your essence is being compressed under immense pressure and heat, just as coal is transformed into a diamond over eons. The philosopher's stone is that diamond soul, the indestructible core of your being that emerges after all that is non-essential has been incinerated. It is the state of consciousness that can no longer be harmed by loss, change, or criticism, because it has already passed through the ultimate fire and discovered its own eternal nature within the flames. This is the true immortality the ancients sought, not an endless prolonging of the physical body, but the awakening to the part of you that was never born and can never die. Your journey through personal hardship, your own dark nights of the soul, are not meaningless suffering. They are the precise and necessary stages of a cosmic recipe. You are the lead, the fire, and the alchemist all at once. working in the laboratory of your own life to forge the one thing that can truly set you free. What if your greatest challenges were not obstacles, but the essential ingredients for your own spiritual transmutation? High above the southern hemisphere lies a constellation named for our mythical bird, a pattern of stars formerly mapped in the 16th century, yet echoing an ancient truth. The Phoenix constellation is a celestial mirror of the cycle we have been exploring. Its astrological symbolism speaking directly to our capacity for total self-reinvention. This is not the gentle, predictable renewal of the seasons, but something far more profound. It symbolizes resurrection after catastrophic, life-altering events, the kind that shatter your world so completely that the only path forward is to build an entirely new one from the ashes. When prominent in your astrological chart, the Phoenix energy does not whisper of small adjustments. It heralds a complete metamorphosis. Think of the celestial phoenix as a cosmic alarm, one that rings not for a simple change of job or home, but for the death and rebirth of your very identity. Its transits often coincide with periods that feel like utter endings, the sudden collapse of a career you dedicated your life to, the painful, unforeseen end of a foundational relationship, or a health crisis that redefines your entire existence. In these moments, the universe is not punishing you. It is inviting you fiercely and irrevocably to step into the flames and become someone new. This is about rising from a catastrophe, not as a repaired version of your old self, but as a different person altogether, one forged in a fire that left no old stone upon another. Do you have a point in your life you can look back on as a before and after? A dividing line drawn by a trial that fundamentally changed who you were. That was a personal Phoenix transit, a celestial trigger for your own sacred cycle of annihilation and creation. The planets themselves can act as the torch that ignites this sacred pyre. A Pluto transit, for instance, contacting a sensitive point in your birth chart, is a classic trigger for a Phoenix cycle. Pluto, the lord of the underworld, governs death, rebirth, and power. Its energy is notoriously uncompromising, systematically dismantling structures in your life that have outlived their purpose, especially those you cling to for a false sense of security. It burns away what is corrupt or inauthentic with a terrifying and absolute efficiency. Similarly, a Uranus transit can act as the lightning bolt that strikes the old nest, bringing sudden, shocking upheavals that shatter your status quo in an instant. Uranus is the great awakener, and its disruptions, while chaotic, are designed to liberate you from a prison of your own routines and expectations. When these slow-moving, transformative planets activate the Phoenix constellation's energy in your chart, or aspect a key personal planet like your sun or moon, the call for rebirth becomes impossible to ignore. The universe is not asking for your permission. It is presenting you with the fire and asking for your surrender. The question is not whether the flames will come, but whether you will choose to see them as destructive or purifying. Will you fight the incineration of your old life? Or will you, like the mythical bird, gather your own sacred myrrh and walk willingly into the blaze, trusting that a more radiant you is waiting patiently in the embers? But a powerful archetype like the Phoenix carries a hidden shadow. We can become so enamored with the promise of rebirth that we try to leap directly from the fire into the sky, bypassing the essential work of the ashes. This is the shadow Phoenix, a distorted version of the myth where we use spiritual ideas to avoid the messy, human and necessary parts of our own transformation. It is the temptation to declare yourself reborn, while your unresolved grief and unexamined wounds are still smoldering beneath surface. True alchemy demands that we fully process the death, not just paint over it with a shiny new spiritual identity. Imagine someone who, after a painful breakup, immediately adopts a persona of enlightened detachment. proclaiming they are grateful for the lesson and have already moved on. They skip the heartbreak, the anger, the loneliness, the crucial dissolution of the old relationships form. They have not gathered the aromatic woods of honest self-reflection. They have simply thrown a spiritual blanket over the fire and called it rebirth. This is spiritual bypassing, and it creates a fragile structure, a nest built on suppressed emotions that will inevitably collapse. The shadow phoenix avoids the dark, rich soil of the shadow, where our repressed fears, jealousies, and traumas reside. It wants the golden feathers without first confronting the leaden weight of its own hidden nature. Have you ever found yourself using a positive affirmation to shut down a feeling of sadness, or declaring something was a blessing before you had truly felt the sting of the loss? That is the whisper of the shadow phoenix, urging you to fly before you have fully healed. Authentic rebirth requires us to sit in the ashes of our disappointment, to feel the full weight of our failures, and to take absolute accountability for the parts we played in our own undoing. It demands that we ask, not how quickly can I rise, but what must truly die here for my renewal to be real. The next time you feel the urge to transcend a painful experience, pause. Ask yourself if you are honoring the death, or merely fleeing from its sacred and necessary lessons. This powerful archetype is not just a story to admire from afar. It is a process you can consciously invite into your life. A personal phoenix ceremony makes the symbolic journey tangible, transforming abstract ideas into a profound experience of release and renewal. You can begin by finding a quiet space where you will not be disturbed. Take a single sheet of paper and a pen. On this paper, write down with absolute honesty the one thing you are ready to release. This is your offering for the sacred fire. It could be a specific fear that has held you back, a story of past failure you keep replaying, an old identity like the people pleaser or the victim, or a limiting belief about what you can or cannot achieve. Write it down without judgment. This act of naming your limitation is the first step of gathering your own aromatic woods, consciously choosing what must be transformed. Next, prepare for the symbolic fire. Safety is paramount, so if you choose to use a real flame, do so outdoors in a fire-safe container like a cauldron or a metal bowl, with water nearby. Alternatively, you can use the flame of a single candle. Hold your paper and take a few deep breaths. In your mind's eye, summon the image of the phoenix, not in its glorious flight, but in its moment of courageous surrender, willingly entering the cleansing flames. Understand that this fire represents not destruction, but purification. As you safely light the corner of the paper and place it in your container, watch the flames consume your written words. Feel the visceral release as the physical representation of your limitation turns to smoke and ash. This is your voluntary descent, your active participation in burning away what no longer serves your highest good. Once the flames have subsided and you are left with only the cooled ashes, the next phase begins. This is your moment in the fertile void. Do not rush it. Sit with the quiet. You have created an inner emptiness, and nature abhors a vacuum. Now is the time to plant a seed of intention for what will grow in this newly cleared space. This is where you move from death to life. You might take an actual seed, perhaps from a fruit you enjoy, and plant it in a small pot of soil, infusing it with a silent prayer for your own new growth. Or you could create a simple vision board on a small piece of paper, using images or words that represent the qualities you wish to embody: freedom, creativity, courage, or peace. This act is not about crafting a detailed 10-year plan. It is about planting the essence of your reborn self, your own egg of myrrh, into the nourishing ashes of your past. This entire ritual, from the burning to the planting, physically maps the spiritual journey onto your nervous system. It tells your entire being, from your conscious mind to your deepest soul, that a cycle has ended and a new one has boldly begun. The shaman's journey takes this cycle of fire and ash into even more visceral territory. Across countless indigenous traditions, the path to becoming a healer begins not with light, but with a brutal and involuntary shattering known as the initiatory illness. This is not a gentle nudge toward growth. It is a profound crisis where the aspiring shaman's reality fractures, often experiencing vivid dreams or visions of their own body being systematically torn apart by spirits or animal powers. Bones are separated from joints, flesh is stripped from the frame, and the eyes are plucked out. This is the ultimate dismemberment, a symbolic death far more graphic than the phoenix flame. Yet this terrifying ordeal is not a punishment. It is the essential, non-negotiable precondition for the shaman's power. Just as the phoenix must be reduced to ashes, the old, ordinary identity of the shaman must be utterly demolished. The everyday sense of self, with all its fears, attachments, and limited perceptions, is dismantled piece by piece. Why would any spiritual tradition hold such a brutal process at its core? The answer lies in what this destruction makes possible. Within the shattered fragments of the old self, scattered pieces of the soul lie hidden. Throughout a lifetime, and even across generations, traumatic events can cause parts of our vital essence to splinter off and become lost in non-ordinary reality. A childhood humiliation might send a piece of your innate confidence into hiding. A profound betrayal could sever your capacity for trust, leaving that soul part adrift. The shaman, in the midst of their own dismemberment, is not just being destroyed. They are being taken apart to access these lost fragments, both their own and those of the people they will later heal. The reassembly that follows is not a simple return to the previous form. The spirits put the shaman back together, but now with the recovered soul parts integrated, often with new symbolic objects, inserted a quartz crystal where the heart was, the eyes of a hawk for visionary sight. This is the phoenix rising, not just renewed, but fundamentally rewired and empowered. The shaman returns from this ordeal as a walking bridge between worlds, a whole person because they have consciously gathered their own scattered pieces from the darkness. Their former life and identity are ashes, but from those ashes a healer is born. This ancient process asks a daring question of us all. What parts of your own wholeness feel lost to past pain? And what would it take to courageously welcome them home? Hidden within the phoenix myth is a precise numerical code, a cosmic countdown etched into its very transformation. The numbers 4, 5, and 9 map the entire journey from stability to ash to new life, offering a secret language to understand your own cycles of rebirth. The number 4 is the solid, predictable nest. It represents the foundation you have built, the stable structure of your life with its 4 corners of career, home, relationships, and identity. This is the comfortable, known world, the routine that makes you feel secure. But in the phoenix cycle, this very stability becomes the fuel for the fire. The nest must be deliberately constructed, only so it can be willingly offered to the flames. Think of the 4 walls of a house you have lived in for years. They have protected you, but they have also confined you. The number 4 is that house, the necessary structure that must eventually be transcended. When the fire ignites, we enter the domain of the number 5. This is the energy of crisis, chaos, and radical change. 5 shatters the stability of 4, introducing the unpredictable element that forces everything to transform. It is the lightning strike, the sudden loss, the unexpected diagnosis, the betrayal that fractures your world. This number does not represent a gentle transition. It is the fire itself, the volatile, purifying force that reduces the solid nest to its basic components. 5 is the moment your comfortable career vanishes, the relationship ends, or the belief you held so tightly is proven false. It feels like a destructive upheaval, a tearing apart of everything you knew. Yet this chaos is not random. It is the essential catalyst, the divine disruption that prevents the soul from becoming stagnant and trapped within the comfortable prison of the number 4. After the storm of 5 comes the profound peace of the number 9. This is the number of completion, of endings, and of wisdom earned through the entire journey. It is the state of the ashes, the quiet aftermath where the cycle concludes. 9 represents the release of the old, the final letting go that makes space for the entirely new. But in the mystical language of numbers, 9 also contains a beautiful secret. It is the last of the single-digit numbers, the final stage of a great cycle. When you add 9 and 1, you get 10, which reduces back to 1, the number of new beginnings. The phoenix does not simply rise within the old cycle. It completes it so utterly that it emerges into a completely new octave of existence, a new level of being. The wisdom you gain from walking through the fire of 5 and sitting in the ashes of 9 becomes the very seed for your next chapter. Your old life was a single story, and with the turn of the page to 10, you begin an entirely new volume. Can you look back on your life and see these numbers at play? The stable 4s that had to burn, the chaotic 5s that cleared the way, and the completing 9s that allowed a truer version of you to be born. This powerful archetype is not confined to ancient myths or esoteric maps. Modern psychology confirms the phoenix's journey in a concept known as post-traumatic growth. This is not the same as resilience, which is the ability to bounce back to a previous state. Post-traumatic growth is the profound and positive psychological shift that occurs when a person navigates a seismic life crisis and does not just recover, but fundamentally transform. They are not the same person they were before the fire. They have been reforged into someone stronger, wiser, and with a deeper sense of purpose. The trauma is the fire, the period of intense suffering and disorientation is the ash, and the new, more authentic life that emerges is the phoenix in flight. Think of someone who survives a serious illness. After the initial shock and treatment, they do not simply return to their old routines. They often report a complete re-evaluation of their priorities. They may leave an unfulfilling career to pursue a long-held passion, cherish their relationships with a new intensity, or develop a profound appreciation for the simple beauty of a new day. The trauma did not just happen to them. It initiated a process that burned away superficial concerns, leaving behind what is truly essential. Their values have been purified in the crucible of their experience. This is the psychological equivalent of the phoenix gathering its sacred myrrh, consciously building a new life from the wisdom earned in the ashes. Have you ever met someone who endured a great loss and emerged with a startling clarity about who they are and what they are here to do? That is post-traumatic growth in action. The fire did not destroy them. It initiated a profound awakening, revealing strengths and depths they never knew they possessed. Their suffering became the very fuel for their rebirth. Fawkes the Phoenix appears precisely when Harry needs him most in the Chamber of Secrets. His song brings courage in the face of mortal danger, and his tears possess a miraculous power to heal a fatal basilisk venom wound. This is no arbitrary magical creature. Fawkes embodies the archetype's most nurturing aspect, the promise that from the ashes comes not just new life, but profound restoration. He carries the weight of Harry's burdens, literally lifting him from the depths of despair, showing us that rebirth is not a solitary ordeal. It is a process supported by the grace that emerges from our own cycles of destruction. Fawkes represents the hope that our deepest wounds can be healed by a love and loyalty that is itself forged in fire. His loyalty to Dumbledore is absolute, born of a bond that transcends countless deaths and rebirths. This mirrors the ancient idea that our essential self, our higher self, remains constant and trustworthy through all of life's transformations. We can rely on that inner phoenix to appear when we are in our own darkest chamber, offering a song of hope and the healing we desperately need. Then we have a radically different interpretation, one that reveals the shadow of this immense power. Jean Grey, as the Dark Phoenix in X-Men, is a cosmic force incarnate. She does not just rise from a personal fire. She becomes the fire itself, a being of such raw, untamed power that she threatens to consume entire worlds. June's story is a cautionary tale about a rebirth that is not fully integrated. The Phoenix Force chooses her, but she is ultimately overwhelmed by it. This speaks to a deep cultural fear. What if we awaken a power within ourselves that we cannot control? What if the fire of transformation, instead of purifying us, obliterates our humanity and everything we hold dear? June's struggle is the struggle of the ego confronting the infinite. The human part of her cannot contain the divine force, and the result is catastrophic. Her journey is not one of graceful surrender, but of a painful, often destructive, battle between her human love and the godlike power she embodies. It asks a terrifying question. Can we handle the responsibility of our own rebirth? Or will the sheer magnitude of our potential destroy us and those around us? These two modern myths, Fawkes and Jean Grey, bookend our collective yearning for this transformative power. We long for the gentle, healing rebirth that Fawkes offers, a clear and guided path where loyalty is rewarded and wounds are magically mended. Yet we are simultaneously terrified of the Jean Grey potential, the chaotic, all-consuming force that demands a price we may not be willing to pay. This duality shows that the Phoenix myth is not a simple, feel-good story. It is a complex map of a dangerous and glorious process. Our fascination with these stories reveals a profound, unconscious understanding that true transformation is never safe. It requires us to confront both the healing tears and the cosmic fire within our own souls. We see that the power to rise from our ashes is the greatest power there is, and our pop culture heroes and villains are merely reflections of our own deepest fears and most sacred hopes about what that power will do to us. This same sacred fire burns not only within individuals, but across our entire world. Look at the crumbling foundations of our oldest institutions, the political divisions that feel insurmountable, the economic models that create such glaring inequality, and the environmental systems pushed to their breaking point. These are not random crises. They are the global nest catching fire, a collective phoenix cycle unfolding on a planetary scale. The old structures, built on separation, exploitation, and fear, are being consumed in a blaze of their own making. This planetary chaos is the necessary fire, the volatile number 5 disrupting the stagnant stability of the number 4 on a colossal level. It feels terrifying and out of control because it is the death throes of an entire way of being. The ashes settling across our collective consciousness are the confusion, the grief, and the profound sense of uncertainty about what comes next. Yet within this global dark night lies our greatest opportunity. Just as the personal phoenix rises from its own ashes, humanity has the potential to birth a new society from this dissolution, one rooted in cooperation, compassion, and a recognition of our fundamental interconnectedness. This is not a utopian dream, but the next step in our collective evolution, forged in the very fires that seem to threaten our existence. Who are the midwives of this global rebirth? In every community, there are those who feel this transition acutely. individuals often called lightworkers or wayshowers. They are not a special elite, but simply people who have chosen to consciously participate in the planet's transformation. Their primary role is to hold the frequency of the new world while standing in the ashes of the old. Think of a neighbor who organizes a community garden in a food desert, a teacher who fosters empathy in her classroom, or an entrepreneur who builds a business model based on giving back. They are not trying to patch the crumbling system, but are instead planting living examples of what can be. They are the ones gathering the aromatic woods of a new paradigm, building nests of kindness, sustainability, and truth within the larger fire. Their work is often thankless and emotionally draining, for they are processing not only their own personal ashes, but also absorbing the collective fear and pain of the planet. A lightworker is not someone who avoids the darkness, but one who learns to carry a lamp within it, trusting that their small, steady flame contributes to the dawn that is coming for everyone. Your own desire for a more just, beautiful, and peaceful world is not naive. It is the song of the collective phoenix echoing within you, an invitation to pick up your own lamp and join the sacred work of building a new nest for all of humanity. Close your eyes now and take one slow, deep breath. With your next exhale, release the world outside. Let the sounds around you fade into the background and bring your full attention into the sanctuary of your own being. You are safe here. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a tranquil, sacred space. Before you lies a nest you have built with your own hands, woven from the experiences of your life, the joys, the struggles, the lessons learned. This is your offering. Step into the center of this nest and settle comfortably, feeling completely supported. Now, bring to mind the one thing you are ready to release. It might be a heavy fear, a stubborn resentment, or an outdated story you tell yourself. See it clearly in your mind's eye. As you hold it, a single radiant spark appears in the air before you. It glows with a warm, golden light. This is not a fire of punishment, but of purification. The spark gently floats down and touches the nest at your feet. Instantly, a soft, welcoming flame begins to spread. Feel its warmth encircling you, not burning, but cleansing. The fire climbs, surrounding you now in a brilliant, golden cylinder of light. It touches the burden you are holding. Breathe deeply, and as you exhale, consciously offer this limitation to the flames. Watch as it transforms, not into smoke and destruction, but into pure, shimmering energy. The fire is not harming you. It is loving you free, dissolving every chain, every weight, every old identity that you have outgrown. Surrender to this sacred heat. Let it consume all that you are not. As the flames begin to subside, a profound stillness descends. You are sitting in a soft bed of warm, grey ashes. This is the fertile void. There is no past here and no future. There is only a deep, peaceful potential. Rest here. Breathe into this quiet emptiness. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to be. In this sacred silence, feel the gentle hum of pure possibility. All the noise has been burned away, and for the first time you can hear the soft, steady rhythm of your own eternal soul. This is not emptiness, it is wholeness waiting to be born. From the very center of your being in your heart, a soft light begins to pulse. It grows stronger with each beat, a luminous, golden egg forming within your chest. This is your egg of myrrh, the seed of your reborn self, containing all the wisdom and strength you have gained from your journey. Feel its radiant warmth spreading through you. Now sense powerful, graceful wings unfolding from your back. Wings of light and air, forged in the fire and tempered in the ashes. They are strong, they are yours, and they are ready. With a deep, empowering breath, push down gently with these new wings. Feel yourself lifting effortlessly out of the ashes. you rise higher and higher into a clear, open sky. The wind supports you, carrying you toward a brilliant dawn on the horizon. You are not fleeing the past. You are carrying its wisdom into a new chapter. Feel the incredible freedom of your flight, the strength in your wings, the clarity in your heart. You are renewed. You are the phoenix. Whenever you are ready, gently bring your awareness back to the room, carrying this feeling of empowered renewal with you into your day. The glorious phoenix rising into the dawn is a breathtaking image, but the human reality of rebirth is often far less picturesque. Your personal fire might look like a sudden layoff that shatters your financial security, not a dramatic pyre of sacred wood. The ashes you are left with can feel like the heavy stillness of depression, the hollow ache of grief after a relationship ends, or the sheer confusion of not knowing who you are anymore when a primary identity, like being a parent or a professional, undergoes a massive shift. This phase holds no golden feathers or brilliant light, only the grey, gritty reality of what remains when the flames die down. It is crucial to acknowledge that this part of the journey is not beautiful, and pretending it is only deepens the sense of isolation. The myth gives us a map, but it does not show the blistered feet and the disorienting fog of the actual walk. Your journey through this terrain is uniquely challenging because it is yours alone. No one else can feel the specific weight of your losses or navigate the particular labyrinth of your confusion. The universal map says there are ashes, but only you know the texture of yours, the way they cling to your skin and make every breath feel like an effort. This is where the myth must meet your personal courage. It offers the reassurance that this state is a known, even necessary, part of the cycle. The feeling of being utterly lost is not a sign that you are failing at transformation. It is the evidence that the transformation is working its way through the very core of your being. When the old structures are gone, the emptiness that follows is not a permanent condition, but a temporary, fertile ground. Think of a forest after a fire. The scene is not one of immediate, glorious rebirth. It is a landscape of charred trees and silence. Yet this apparent devastation is what allows the soil to receive sunlight, and the seeds of resilient new growth to finally sprout. Your period of depression or loss is that silent, scorched earth. It is a time of necessary rest and integration, even when it feels like a paralyzing stagnation. The myth does not promise that the path is easy, only that it is purposeful. It asks you to trust the process, even when you cannot feel the warmth of the fire, or see the glimmer of a new dawn. Can you grant yourself the grace to be in the ashes without demanding an immediate, beautiful rise? The serpent devouring its own tail, the ancient Ouroboros, presents a different kind of fire. This is not the blaze of a singular transformation, but the cool, eternal flame of the cosmos itself, a perfect circle of creation and dissolution that has no beginning and no end. Where the phoenix represents the soul's passionate, conscious journey through the flames, the Ouroboros is the great wheel it turns upon, the endless cycle of life, death, and rebirth that governs all of existence. One is the personal, willful path of the individual spirit, while the other is the vast, impersonal machinery of the universe. Together they map the complete picture of reality, showing us our place within an infinite dance. The Ouroboros is the macrocosm, the grand, cyclical breathing of galaxies and seasons. The phoenix is the microcosm, the personal story of a single spark of consciousness, navigating that immense, turning wheel. You can see this relationship in the natural world. The Ouroboros is the water cycle, where the ocean evaporates, forms clouds, rains upon the land, and flows back to the sea in an unbroken loop. The phoenix is the singular, brilliant tree struck by lightning in a storm, burned to its roots, and yet sending up new green shoots from its charred base the following spring. The great cycle continues, indifferent and eternal, while within it, countless individual beings experience their own dramatic cycles of death and renewal. This duality resolves a great spiritual paradox. How can we be both eternal and temporary? The Ouroboros answers that your essence, the substance of your soul, is part of this eternal flow, forever recycled and renewed. The Phoenix reveals that your conscious experience, your unique selfhood, undergoes a series of profound, awakening journeys within that endless flow. You are both the serpent and the bird, the eternal cycle, and the conscious traveler moving through it. This understanding transforms the very meaning of your personal struggles. Your Phoenix moments, those times of fiery crisis and ashen silence, are not random interruptions in a linear life. They are the necessary points of friction where your individual soul grows and evolves within the greater turning of the cosmic wheel. Each time you rise from your own ashes, you are not escaping the cycle. You are engaging with it more consciously, learning its rhythms, and aligning your personal transformation with the universal pulse of death and rebirth that is the very heartbeat of existence. Your own Phoenix moment rarely arrives with a dramatic thunderclap. It whispers first through a deep and growing sense of dissatisfaction, a feeling that the life you are living has become a costume that no longer fits. You might notice a persistent cynicism creeping into your work, a feeling of distance in your closest relationships, or a simple lack of joy in activities that once lit you up. These are not signs of failure, but the first subtle cracks in the nest, the initial heat from a fire that is still gathering strength underground. The key is to stop seeing this discomfort as a problem to be solved, and to start recognizing it as an invitation. What part of your daily routine feels most like a cage? Is it the constant rush of obligations that leaves no space for your own thoughts? Is it a relationship dynamic where you have been playing a role instead of being yourself? That specific point of friction is your starting point, the exact piece of wood you are being asked to gather for your own sacred pyre. To consciously work with this archetype, begin by asking one courageous question at the end of each day. Where did I feel most alive today? And where did I feel most dead inside? Your honest answer is a direct message from your inner Phoenix, pointing you toward what must be released and what yearns to be born. When the signs intensify into a full-blown crisis, the natural human impulse is to fight the flames. We scramble to save the job that is making us sick, to fix the relationship that has run its course, or to desperately cling to an identity that the universe is clearly trying to upgrade. This is the moment of supreme choice. Courageous surrender does not mean giving up or admitting defeat. It means stopping the struggle against the current and turning to face the fire with open eyes. It is the conscious decision to say, I do not understand why this is happening, but I trust that it is necessary. This trust is the most practical tool you have. It is the aromatic myrrh that anoints the entire process as sacred. Think of a time you finally stopped arguing with a painful truth and simply accepted it. The relief that followed, even amidst the pain, was your first taste of this surrender. You allowed that old version of reality to die, and in that space, a new strength was born. Integrating the Phoenix means learning to welcome these endings as fiercely as you celebrate new beginnings, understanding that they are two sides of the same golden coin. Your transformation is not a distant myth, but a living process unfolding in the choices of your everyday life. What cage are you ready to unlock from the inside? We have walked through the fire together and sat in the quiet ashes. The journey reveals a profound spiritual technology, a timeless blueprint for your own transformation. The first principle is that fire is not your enemy, but the ultimate tool of purification. It is the alchemical flame that burns away the false self, the fears, and the attachments that keep you from your true nature. This leads to the second principle, the necessity of a sacred death. This is not a physical end, but a courageous surrender of every outdated identity, every comforting illusion, and every story that has become a cage. The third principle is the hidden power of the ashes. That state of emptiness and not knowing is not a void of despair, but a womb of pure potential, the fertile ground where your new consciousness can finally take root. And from that quiet potential emerges the fourth and final principle, your authentic rebirth. This is not about becoming someone new, but about the radiant emergence of the self that was always there, waiting patiently beneath the layers of who you thought you had to be. This entire cycle is a coded map for personal alchemy, a guide for turning the lead of your struggles into the gold of your wisdom. The myth of the phoenix is not a story to simply admire. It is an invitation to engage in the most sacred work of your life. The fire is calling. What will you allow to burn away so that you can truly rise?